What's it? What?
We'll wait for 2 minutes, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. 2 minutes.
So let us start. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we learned last time. We started with the ionization techniques. The second part, that in the first part we learned about the hard ionization techniques. That is, first we learned about EI, then we learned about CI. But as we discussed last time, these are mainly used for GCMS, and it is used mainly for those molecules which are pretty stubborn or quite stable molecules, as well as they are small molecules, generally less than 1000 Dalton. For the compounds which are more than 1000, particularly all biomolecules, if you see. So biomolecules, the molecular weights are going to be very, very high, or polymers, the molecular weights are going to be very, very high. These molecules cannot be studied using the ionization sources like EI or CI. So because first of all, they are not, they cannot be evaporated. Just hold on.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Basically we need to evaporate the material, and all those higher molecules or the higher molecular weight materials, they cannot be evaporated. So they need to be studied by LCMS, and the first source which is typically used for LCMS we studied was thermospray, right? In the thermospray, as we discussed last time, that it is an interface as well as it produces the ions also. But it's an old source. It has got advantages as well as a lot of disadvantages also. The main disadvantage is that it cannot be used for bigger molecules, or molecules which are having higher molecular weight. So thermospray has a lot of disadvantages. So thermospray is not used any longer today. So the next source we saw, ionization source, we saw that APCI. So the APCI basically works on the principle whereby these are all spray techniques, as we discussed, right? So the spray techniques whereby you have to have there will be a substance coming out from the liquid chromatography column, and then subsequently it will undergo the evaporation. So there are phases in the stages in the APCI. That is, you will first have you will the material is coming in contact with the it forms a vapor, it forms nebulizer droplets, then yields the dry vapor solvent and analyte molecules. Then there is a corona discharge which ionizes the solvent. What is the voltage of corona discharge? Anybody remembers? Corona discharge voltage 6000 volts. 6 kV is the voltage of the corona, very high voltage. So corona discharge ionizes solvent. As the name suggests, basically the APCI, you have got a solvent which works like a reagent, and it first gets ionized, and in turn it ionizes the molecule of interest. So it is a very useful technique, particularly for all those molecules which can get easily ionized and can be studied using an LCMS. Only there are some small disadvantages of the APCI also. We discussed advantages and disadvantages. In the same line now, the next spray technique, what we are going to study, which is the most popular today, is electrospray. Now I will just share my desktop. Can you see the desktop now? Can you see?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So the electrospray also is a spray technique, and it is basically a method whereby getting the solution phase ions into gas phase so that it can be sampled by the mass spectrometer. Again, it's a very popular technique for LCMS. It is used enormously today, and I will say the maximum spray ionization sources which are used today with LCMS are APCI and electrospray. Now you will find electrospray. I am talking about generic names electrospray. There will be variety of names people will have, because they will like if Finnegan is that is thermo is there, they will do some modifications in this, or Agilent is there, some modification. They may little bit call something different. The maybe acronyms may be different, but basically the fundamental is electrospray. That is what they will give always. So what is the basic principles? Again, the spray technique. So there is a liquid coming out from my liquid chromatography column. So again, everywhere the inlet system is the HPLC in this case, or particularly or UPLC, depending on the what chromatography system I am using. There are three fundamental processes. The first of all, it is the production of charged droplets, then droplet size reduction and fission, then gas phase ion formation. These are the three fundamental processes. Unlike in APCI, we have got a different, like as anybody remembers APCI, I will just show once again. First there is a desolvent, the nebulizer droplet leading a dry vapor and an light molecule. Then coronal discharge ionizes solvent, which in turn reacts as a CI. So there is subsequently here the formation of the charged droplets is first, and solvent is not taking any role in this case. Means solvent is not getting ionized first and then helping like that. If solvent does that, that is not a very desirable process in case of a ESI, that is electrospray. Whereas in case of APCI, the ionization through the solvent ions, which are first they get ionized, then in turn they will ionize my molecule of interest. That is the desired process. Whereas here it is not a desired process, it is an undesired process. Here I want that production of a charged droplet should be there, then droplet size reduction, fission, and then gas phase ionization, ion formation. There will be some inherent, some formation of the solvent and my ion, that is molecule of interest adduct will be there, but that's not a very desirable this thing. So let us see how it works. Very similar to APCI, this also works like you can see the figure. There is a liquid chromatography column, that is outlet. There is a nebulizing gas is there. So this here, then there is a drop, there is a discharge has been put. There is a large amount of voltage which has been put between the needle of this and to the your orifice plate, or to the gas phase ion extraction, or this plate, whereby there is an extraction of the ions. So there is a large voltage which is put, which is 5 kV or 5000 volts. Now because of the large potential difference, this is going to be ionized. These droplets will be ionized. These droplets will be ionized. As they get ionized, there will be charge distribution. See, there is a charge distribution. As the charge distribution is there, the solvent, and this is again gets heated up. This is there is a drying gas always is there. So there is a removal of solvent. As the removal of solvent takes place, my droplet goes on reducing, as we saw here. There is a droplet size reduction. As the droplet goes on reducing, you will find the charge basically gets accumulated at the center. As it gets accumulated at the center, there will be repulsive forces because initially the droplet molecule or droplet size is big. As the droplet size reduction occurs, the charge subsequently getting concentrated at the center in a smaller space. As it happens in a smaller space, there will be more and more repulsive forces will be there because there is already a polarization is there. There is a plus charge is there and there is a negative charge in the center. Why it has happened? That is because of the large potential difference I have put between the tip and or plate here. So because of this large potential difference, there is already a charge distribution which has, or there is a polarization which has already taken place in my droplet. So now in the center, when there is a negative charge is there and then there is a positive charge spread, there will be repulsive forces which will act. As these repulsive forces will act, there will be fission. You have anytime heard about fission? Fission is a typical phrase which is used in nuclear fission. Nuclear fission is there, whereby there is a bombardment of neutrons. There are no neutrons here, only the similarities it has been explained with the help of this term. There is no neutron, there is no bombardment of the nuclei or anything. So the fission basically like one droplet forms three droplets, then again they get disintegrated furthermore. Like that, there is a further and further formation of a small droplets, and then finally it's the formation of a gas phase ion. Now this gas phase ion which has formed typically, now there is a extraction plate is there. Now this extraction plate which is there, this will have this ions will be positively charged. This is the portion which is the mass spectrometer portion. Okay, there is a continuously drying gas is there which is being passed. There is a curtain plate is there, which is basically it has to separate out the all other, I will say it is a high or the low vacuum portion, and this is the high vacuum portion. The MS portion is the high vacuum portion. This is little bit that way low vacuum portion. Why not a very low as like APCI, but little bit lower because there is evaporation, there is a solvent, all those things. So naturally you will not be able to maintain a very high vacuum. So there is a low vacuum portion and this MS portion is the high vacuum. So this is the curtain plate which separates both these portions, and this is the portion which is basically ion extraction. So gas phase ions are extracted through this plate. There will be an extraction voltage will be put to this hole, and then through this aperture the positive ions they enter. Subsequently there is an orifice plate will be there which will have the voltages again put. Based on these voltages there will be some collimation of the beam or the narrowing of the beam of the ions, and finally it will go to the mass spectrometer. This is the side of a mass spectrometer or the mass analyzer, I should say. This whole is the mass spectrometer portion only, or this is basically interface ionization source, and this is the mass analyzer. So typically mass spectrometer many times the terms is used other than the interface, like the analyzer portion, the detector portion is typically used, but you can see, since it is an interface ionization, this you can also call this as the mass spectrometer portion only. So here the ions are passing, they will get extracted through this extraction plate, then they will get collimated through this orifice plate, and then they will, the positive charge, they will go to the mass spectrometer. So if I just write down a large voltage applied between the end of the capillary carrying the LC mobile phase and the mass spectrometer entrance, which we saw here. This is the capillary and this is the mass spectrometer entrance plate. Ions of the same polarity are drawn out towards the counter electrode, that is the curtain plate. So we saw the curtain plate, they are drawn here, and then the positive ions are drawn, because see, I am operating right now the positive ion mass spectrometry. Whenever I want to operate a negative ion mass spectrometry, only the negative ions will be extracted. My curtain plate or my separation plates will have the voltages based on that. Here, when there is some negative ions are there, they will be absorbed by my curtain plate. They will not be allowed to pass to my mass spectrometer portion. So only positive ions are allowed to pass through my mass spectrometer portion. So ions of the same polarity are drawn out toward the counter electrode, which I said is a curtain plate, pulling the mobile phase along. When the excess charge at the tip of the capillary overcomes the surface tension, a droplet, which I told you, this droplet formation is there. So there is a first disproportion of the charge is there because of this high voltage. Then there is a formation of a droplet. There is already disproportionate charge is there. There is positive and negative charge distribution is there, or polarization is there. Subsequent to that, then there is a droplet size reduction occurs by continual repetition of the tube process. That is a desolvation. If I see this is a droplet which is in the beginning, evaporation of the neutral solvent and volatile buffers. So that is why buffers have to be volatile in nature. So that is why I always prefer the ammonium type of buffers, not the sodium or potassium type, because sodium and potassium type of buffers are not easily evaporable, whereas ammonium type of buffer like ammonium acetate, ammonium phosphate, like that, phosphate particularly still I will avoid. Ammonium acetate type of buffers are preferred. So these buffers are evaporable in nature, and whenever I am using this, now why should I use buffers? That is the fundamental question I have to answer in my liquid chromatography. Buffer is not required for my electrospray. It is required for my chromatography, for having the right separations. So there the buffers are used. So the evaporation of neutral solvent and volatile buffers takes place. So this droplet, as the evaporation of solvent and buffers happens, it gets reduced further and further. And as I said, this is a disproportionate initially charge is there, but still the space is bigger. Now when there is a space is smaller, there is going to be repulsion, repulsive forces will act. So this is the fission which I talked about. So like there are three droplets which are forming here. See, this is a pictorial, there will be more also formation. So now here further reduction of the size is there because there is a further desolvation. Now solvent has no role in this case of electrospray, that is ionization. Solvent is only a carrier, whereas in case of APCI, solvent is like a reagent. So it basically gets ionized first and then it ionizes my compound of interest. So the solvent has a big role in APCI, whereas in ESI, solvent is mainly a carrier. So solvent has to get out, the solvent has to get evaporated. So this is the droplet first form, then this is the next, then further evaporation occurs, then further evaporation occurs like that, then there is a further like that. So this is finally an ion which I will get of the solute molecule which is free from solvent. So all the solvent has been evaporated out, okay, and only it has got a positive charge. Now where are the negative charge species are gone? Negatively charged species are extracted by my curtain plate. It will only allow the positively charged species to enter into my mass spectrometer portion. Always there will be some formation in when I run the positive ion mass spectrometry, there may be small formation of negative ion, or vice versa. When I run negative ion mass spectrometry, there may be formation of positive ions, but what I have to do, I cannot run mass spectrometry both positive and negative mode in one shot. It has to be one by one. So either I will be doing positive ion mass spectrometry or I will be doing negative ion mass spectrometry. But the formation of negative ions in case of ESI is very limited, very minimal. So mainly the positive ion formation is there. So these positive ions, as I discussed here in the diagram, they are finally extracted through the curtain plate. They will be extracted. This extraction potential is put here. So which will be attracting the positive ions. So naturally this will be negatively charged. So they will be going through this. Then there will be orifice plate. Orifice plate, now for simplicity, this orifice plate has been shown a very small orifice, but there will be possibility of there will be lenses like electrostatic lens. So the orifice plate is basically a lens, a voltage is put, which will collimate the beam. So it has to be make a narrow beam. Although there will be some scattering of the charge, so I want that this beam has to get narrowed down. So there will be collimation of the beam which will go to the mass spectrometer or the mass analyzer portion. There the analysis will be, the mass analyzer will do the analysis of them all the M by Z based on their mass to charge ratios. So I will be getting the mass spectrum. So this is the fundamental principles of the electrospray. So this is typically if there is something called a Taylor cone, which is a term which is used. So if I show it positive field, now here there is a needle tip. needle tip, which is my HPLC outlet column, which is whereby there is a subsequently there is a needle is put also. So now needle tip, this is coming out. As there is a charge, there is a more and more charge is put here, because the other side you will find there is a orifice plate is there, and curtain plate is there, whereby I have put 5000 volt is there, which has been put potential difference between these two. Now as the spray comes at a very fast rate here, and there is a gas also helping to ionize basically droplet formation. In the figure you will find here there is a nebulizing gas is there. Only if I just allow my liquid to come, it will be like a very small flow rate, but I am using nebulizing gas is there. This nebulizing gas will be making the final droplets, or the jet will be there. Now this positive filled cations, as there is a formation of the ions here, they will move towards the liquid and ions will towards the conductive tip. In this case, this is a tip will is there. The repulsion which we discuss, as it goes further and further, more and more repulsive forces increase, because as there is a desolvation goes on occurring, my droplet size goes on reducing, and finally it causes this is called a plum, or called as the Taylor cone, which is called a supersonic expansion of a plum. So there is as it comes with a force, there is a evaporation taking place, the charge getting concentrated further and further, the fission process takes place here. So as there is a further and further smaller formation of the droplet is there, then there is a more and more repulsion, and there is we call it supersonic expansion of a plum, or there is a supersonic expansion called a Taylor cone. Here there is a formation of the positive ions which are completely free from the solvent. So these are the positive ions. These are the positive ions of my solute molecule or the desired material. These are all formed through this, and that is how it works. So there will be a lot of other theories involved in this. Any questions on this? What we have learned about the theory? So just I will repeat. There is a formation of the, first of all, it's a spray technique, just like APCI or thermospray. It's a spray technique, which is typically used with LCMS. So my liquid chromatography is my inlet system, and my interface, which is in this case we are studying ESI, that is electrospray is what we are studying, works as the interface as well as ionization source. So the fundamental three processes takes place. That is the production of a charged droplets, because there is a LC stream is coming from here. Now here, so there is a large potential difference has been put. This is a tip, and then there is a curtain plate. A large potential difference is put. So there is a disproportion of the charge is there, or the polarization of the charge. There is a nebulization of the gas is there. So there is a fine droplet formation, or there is a finer speed. At a speed the liquid comes out, and as this process of formation of the droplet, then subsequently already it is polarized, subsequently desolvation, that is removal of the solvent, goes on happening. There is a further and further smaller formation is there, and as it goes on happening, there is a further concentration of the charge, and then there is going to be a supersonic expansion of this plum, where in this cavity basically, or in this portion, there is a formation of the positive ions. Now these positive ions, as we discussed, are going to be free from solvent. So naturally you can see in electrospray there is no role of solvent, whereas in case of APCI, the solvent has a big role, because solvent works as basically as a reagent. It first gets ionized, followed by ionization of my compound of interest. Here solvent has no role. Once the chromatography is done properly and droplets are coming out, solvent has no role, it has to go out. So that is why very large quantity of solvent, if it is flowing, it is not a very desirable portion, or a very desirable basically aspect for me, because you can see here, if my normal our HPLC, which is typically 1 ml per minute, I explained you last time that it generates what quantity of gas molecules. It will be generating large quantity of gas, and removal of all those gas molecules will put lot of efforts on my pumping system. So that is why I want as minimum solvent as possible in case of electrospray. Whereas in case of APCI, I want solvent to sizable, not very large also, but sizable. 1 ml is good. because I want to use solvent as a reagent. Here, solvent has no roles. That is why I want minimum solvent. So that is why in case of ESI, what is the most preferred is UPLC, that is ultra high performance liquid chromatography, whereby I use a very small flow rates of something like of the order of 25 microliters per minute, whereas the normal your 4.6 mm ID column you use generally 1 ml per minute, which is large, whereas here I use 25 microliters per minute flow rates. And naturally, when the 25 microliter is such a small flow rate I am putting, it will give less pressure on my pumping system to evacuate the solvent, and solvent will go out fast. So that is why this is the first thing which I will prefer. In case of ESI, the most preferred is UPLC, that is low flow rates. Now there are a variety of theories. Any questions on this, what we have discussed?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So anybody can tell me why solvent is not preferred in this case and why solvent is preferred more in APCI? I told you that I do not want much solvent in case of ESI, whereas in APCI, I prefer some sufficient quantity of solvent, not very large, but some sufficient, not very low, small quantity is not preferred. Why so? I just explained 5 minutes back. Anybody? Can anybody explain? No? So it is not clear? Is it clear or no? Why no answers?
सर रिकॉर्डिंग पे है ना, तो एक बार और रिवाइज सर करेंगे, तो डाउट आएगा तो सर फिर वो नेक्स्ट टाइम जैसा डाउट आएगा पूछेंगे, चलें?
No, I have not understood. Just now what I explained, is it not clear to you?
So the question which you asked, we did not understand.
Question I asked, large, some sufficient quantity of solvent is preferred in APCI, whereas in case of ESI, I want minimum solvent. Why so? I will answer once again. So that I said in case of APCI, since solvent is working as a reagent, it first gets ionized and then it ionizes my compound of interest. That is why solvent has a very active role in APCI. Whereas the one which we are studying, electrospray today, solvent has no role. Solvent has only a role of only chromatography. Once it has done proper separation, solvent does not assist my ionization process. So what is the purpose of solvent? Solvent has done chromatography. Subsequent to at the time of ionization, ion formation, it is putting lot of pressure on my pumping system. So that is why as much low possible quantity of solvent is preferred, because if I put say 1 ml per minute, it will generate more quantity of gas because it gets evaporated and it will put my pressure on my pumping system. So that is why I don't want large quantity of solvent in ESI, whereas in case of APCI, I prefer sufficient quantity, not very large quantity, but 1 ml per minute I prefer because that works as a reagent. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir. It's
So there are variety of, now I explained you that this is how it works. That is there is a 3 steps which I said. Droplet first formation is there. The formation of the droplet, then droplet size reduction is there by continual repetition, that is a desolvation. There is already disproportion of the charge has occurred. This is because of the high voltage which has been put between my tip of my capillary and my curtain plate. There is a large voltage which I am putting. So that is why, which is 5000 voltage has been put or 5 kV is put. So that is why disproportion of the charge is there. So there is a subsequently there is a desolvation, that is removal of neutral solvent is there and volatile buffers is there, and then Once this desolvation occurs, my droplet size reduction happens. As the droplet size goes on reducing and further, there is a concentration of the charge. You can see there is a positive more and negative somewhere, or vice versa. So now here you will find as the droplet size reduction goes on happening, you will have more and more repulsive forces will act. So there is a further and further. So I explained you, as this goes on happening like this, then there is a sudden, there will be repulsion, more and more repulsion will be this, and then there is the formation of this kind of plumb, which is called as a Taylor. In this basically process, I will be complete removal of the solvent is there, and then formation of the ions is there. Okay, so this is how it, it works. Now we'll take 5 minutes break, and then we'll again continue at 10:40, at 10:37 around. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
So let us resume again. I will just share.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there are a variety of theories which have been given how this formation of ions. So we'll just glance. I mean, they are not so. We are going to go into the details of that how the bare ion formation theories are there. There are models. These are the models. So they say there is a large residue. Charge residue model is one which is given for formation of gas phase ions. So all the solvent evaporates, leaving a bare gas phase ion. Then there is a second theory which is the ion formation model. Droplet shrink. The charges that reside on the surface get just enough energy to jump into the gas phase. And then there is a third, which is ion emission model. The high voltage gas, some ion formation directly from the LC capillary. So these are the models which have been given. But basically, you must remember the fundamentally these three steps are there. That is for formation of the production of the charged droplets, followed by droplet size reduction and fission, and gas phase ion formation. Let us proceed further.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So electrospray can operate in either positive or negative charge mode. Positive mode best suited for the drugs that form stable hydrochloride salts like MH plus 1 is the primary ion formation, or there is a formation of sometimes M plus Na. Negative mode also sometimes it is there, best suited for acidic drugs that form stable sodium salts. So it is suitable for both, but more suitable, more used as such in a positive mode. So these are the positive and negative modes which are typically used. Now hydrochlorides, which are like, you will find there are some basic drugs which forms a stable hydrochloride, like ciprofloxacin hydrochloride is there, or there are many other drugs. So they are already which can form stable hydrochlorides are there. So they will be best suited for this. For other acidic compounds, they can form the stable neutral sodium salts. Again, it is suited. Ionization efficiency, now how much is the ion formation is completely dependent on variety of these things. See, like if let us suppose my 25 microliter is coming out, and in which let us suppose for a simplicity there are 100 molecules are there of compound of interest. Are these 100 out of 100 molecules are getting converted into the ions? No. It is not possible, because to convert 100%, each and every, but whatever the conversion is there, that will be homogeneous or reproducible in nature. It doesn't happen like that sometimes there is a more formation of ions, sometimes there is a less formation. If I keep the same condition, the efficiencies will be same every time. So now what are the basic factors which will, now ionization efficiency has to be the highest, because let us suppose I am getting 25 microliter my LUET is coming out, which has got, let us suppose 100 molecules are there. Out of only 10 molecules are getting ionized and 90 molecules are not getting ionized at all. Then my signal will be very low, because my mass spectrometer does not know anything about neutrals. Mass spectrometer only knows about the ionized, that is ions, positive ions or negative ions. So naturally, my endeavor should be, or my effort should be, to completely convert my compound of interest into the ions. So these are the, if let us suppose I am interested in positive charge, so positively charged species or positive ions. If let us suppose many ions are not forming, many molecules are not forming ions, then that is not a desired thing, because I will get a very bad signal. So lower mobile phase flow rate yield smaller droplets. So what is, how it is enhanced? Ionization efficiency, that means how much my liquid which is coming out from the tip is getting converted into the ions, which is called typical ionization efficiency of my process. This will be enhanced by production of smaller droplets. The smaller droplets is preferred on, or it happens when lower mobile phase flow. When the lower mobile phase flow rate comes only when I am using the UPLC. When I am using the normal my HPLC where I have got 1 ml per minute flow rate, then I will not have the lower mobile. It will be very large mobile phase is there already. Because if I have got 20 minutes run, 20 ml is coming to my mass spectrometer portion. Whereas if it is 25 microliter, it's very small then. Then nebulizing gas promotes the droplet formation because it's a finer, it makes a finer things, just like you find in atomic absorption there is a nebulization gas. Here also nebulization gas which promotes the droplet formation. The use of the volatile mobile phases promotes desolvation and droplet fission. Let us suppose I am using a solvent which is a very high boiling. Then evaporating that solvent is not a very easy thing. It will take a lot of time because although I am using gas, maybe some temperatures, there will be always issues related to that. So volatile mobile phases are preferred. So if I am using methanol, acetonitrile, they are preferred. But if I use large quantity of water, there will be water, no doubt. That will give problems. Or if I use very large other solvents which has got a very high boiling point, then again there will be problem. Because if my solvent does not evaporate, then desolvation will not occur. Desolvation means removal of solvent. And if desolvation doesn't occur, then droplet fission will not occur. If droplet fission doesn't occur, my ion formation will not happen. So naturally, my ionization efficiency is completely dependent on production of a smaller droplets, which in turn is dependent on lower mobile phase flow rates. The nebulizing gas, if it is efficiently properly nebulizing, so I am putting a good amount of nebulizing gas, and volatile mobile phases. If my mobile phase which I am using is a volatile enough, then it will promote the desolvation and droplet fission. If it is a high boiling mobile phase is there, then it will not prefer the desolvation fast. And if it does not prefer desolvation, then naturally my droplet fission will not occur. Naturally, my ion formation will not happen, and my ionization efficiency will be absolutely poor. So I want mobile phase should be evaporable substance. It has to be a volatile mobile phase as much as possible. So that is why I am preferring this. Water is less, but water anyway will be small quantity. But more than that, higher boiling point materials I will not use. Acetonitrile, methanol, that kind of solvents are preferred. The next is that enhanced by increasing the concentration of the analyte ions at the end of the capillary by matrix modifiers to promote the solution ion formation. So there will be some matrix modifiers which I am putting in my mobile phase itself so as to promote the solution ion formation. Just like buffers I am putting, similarly there will be some modifiers I can put to promote the solution ion formation. Then I will use a chromatography to produce narrow, highly concentrated bands of the analyte. So chromatography means I am going to use a good chromatography. What do you mean by good chromatography? My solvent selection in such a way that I get sharp peaks. Okay. If let us suppose I do the chromatography, the peak starts at 5 minutes and ends at 10 minutes. Continuously a big peak is there, Gaussian. So there is a 5 minutes it takes for peak coming up and then going down. Like there is such a big gap. So it's a very broad peak. It is not preferred. If it is such a case, then I must first improve my chromatography. The chromatography is completely dependent on my mobile phase selection and my stationary phase selection. If I am using the right stationary phase and mobile phase, my chromatography will be good. If I am using bad stationary phase or maybe not right appropriate stationary phase I should say, and not very appropriate mobile phase, my chromatography will be bad. And if my chromatography is bad means broad bands, there will be merging bands. I think you must have studied all these things in your first part when you studied HPLC, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So basically, I must choose the right mobile phase in the beginning and the right stationary phase so as to get a very sharp peaks. So the chromatography to produce narrow, highly concentrated bands of the analytes. So this all improves the ionization efficiency. Then what are the advantages, disadvantages? The advantages are many. It's a soft ionization technique resulting in little decomposition of labile analytes. Like some of the materials which are like easily decomposable materials, some of the biomolecules can be easily studied, or they are studied today only by SI. There are very less other techniques which are used for the ionization sources used for the biomolecules, mainly the ESI, that what we are studying now. generally produces only molecular ion. So that's the advantage. So molecular ion is preferred. You remember our mass spectrum? So that is, there is the molecular ion is there, then there is the fragments are there, there is a base peak. Base peak is basically the biggest fragment is there, which is called a base peak, and all the other fragments which are calculated in percentage or relative to the base peak are all the fragments, and the percentages I make a list. I call it as a mass list, and on the x-axis I have got mass to charge ratio, and on the y-axis I have got the relative intensity, that is up to 100. So 0 to 100. So that is how the mass spectrum is put, and in the mass list I am going to have the or maybe I can have the relative intensity in terms of many other numbers also, but in the mass list I am going to normalize all my fragment intensities to my base peak. So my base peak will be turned as 100, and relative to that all other fragments will be given the percentages. So that is the mass list. So the molecular ion is basically an ion which is formed from my molecule, intact molecule. That is, let us suppose I have got a benzene which is a molecule. Molecular ion will be, the molecular weight will be the same, only it has got a +1 charge. So plus charge. So this plus charge, which is, there is the molecular weight is same, so m by z will be equivalent to the molecular weight of benzene, which I say as a very simple case. Similarly, if my molecular ion of any other molecule is taken, the m by z, mass to charge ratio, will be equivalent to the molecular weight of that particular molecule which is taken for analysis. So the molecular ion is preferred because that gives me the molecular weight of the compound, and fragments also I need, but there is the less fragments in this. Then there is a possibility of multi-charge analytes. That is, instead of having m by z, where z is 1, I may have z is equal to 2, I may have z is equal to 3, z is equal to 4, z is equal to 5, like that. So any single molecule also can generate more ions, because any molecule, like let us suppose I have got 1000 molecular weight of original molecule, and it has got a +1 charge, then I will have mass to charge ratio will be 1000. If let us suppose it has got a +2 charge, it will be 500. If it has got a +3, like that it will be there. +4 is there, is 250. Like that, variety of m by z I can have. So some of the protein molecules, they typically form multi-charge species. So there will be like a fingerprint. So multiple charge species will be there. Another advantage is wide range of analytes can be studied. So wide range of analytes of all kinds of biomolecules and other things can be studied. Highly efficient in ion production. Unlike other techniques, thermospray for example is not very efficient. Electrospray is highly efficient in ion formations. So it's a very positive aspect. These are all advantages. The disadvantages, that is, I have to go for lower flow rates preferably, and again concentration dependent. So particularly UPLCs, like something like a microliters per minute or nanoliters per minute, that kind of HPLC I need. I cannot use the normal HPLC which has got something like 1 ml per minute, because if it is 1 ml per minute, then that will give lot of evaporation, this thing gas will be there because of the higher amount of solvent, and then that solvent will put gaseous solvent will put a lot of pressure on my pumping system. That will be problematic. Then analyte must form the solution phase ions, typically hydrochlorides or sodium salt. There is one issue in this. There is the formation of possibility of ion separation. See, like ion separation is typically like this. There is the ionization happening, like here you can see here. Suddenly there is a dip. The ions are not formed at all, and then again it comes back. So there is a sudden reduction in the 90% reduction. Why it happens? The major reasons are non-volatile buffers sometimes or salts. They suddenly give issues in the formation of ion efficiency. Some of the non-volatile materials in the mobile phase ion pairing, so they also give the problems. And so this is the phenomenon, once in a while it may occur, that is ion separation. So there is suddenly the separation of the, like here you can see there is a 0.2 minutes to 3 minutes is there. Suddenly I get a negative peak whereby the ions formation. Now this is the background spectra. Just like you have got a HPLC, normal HPLC is there. If you expand our baseline, You will always find this kind of this thing where there will be noise will be there always. Similarly, in the LCMS also, this is a mass spectrometry. There will be some noise. Now, this is the chromatography I am showing. I am not showing a mass spectrum. So, this is the mass chromatography which is happening. This is the background of the what is flowing. Suddenly, my signal comes down because the ionization reduces. This is, as I said, is because of the non-volatile buffers or salt or non-volatile metals and mobile phase ion pairing. So these are typically, or sometimes high molecular analytes can separate the smaller analytes. So these are the issues, this ion separations can take place. So this is the phenomenon which can occur and then gives almost a 90% reduction once in a while. You must have seen similar phenomena in HPLC also. Like sometimes you will find HPLC when there is a solvent is flowing. Typically we use UV detector, and UV detector when there is subsequently when we are passing the solvent, suddenly we may get a negative peak like this, and then again it becomes normal. Generally it happens in the beginning where the solvent disturbance comes. Solvent is sometimes not absorbing, where the mobile phase got a stable background absorbance is there, and then there is sudden dip like this. So it is a very similar phenomenon to that. So clear with what we saw, overall electrospray, the functioning, the theory, and the pros and cons. Any questions? Is this clear? Ion separation study?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, electrospray is a very soft technique, generally producing M+1 or M+ ions in positive mode. Most drugs that form HCl salt will be analyzable by positive mode electrospray. Volatile buffers and mobile phase will increase generally the ionization efficiency. It's a good chromatography producing, as I said, I need here, I have put already, I need basically the very concentric bands. Here we already put a chromatography to produce narrow and highly concentrated bands of analytes will give me higher ionization efficiency. If my chromatography is very poor, see when you do MS, it is first assumed that you are doing a good chromatography and your whatever the runs you are generally, how do you do LCMS? First you do normal HPLC, okay? Normal HPLC you standardize the conditions properly. You see that you get the sharp bands or the sharp peaks you get, and then only you to take those conditions to the LCMS. You don't directly do the LCMS of an unknown compound and you do development work there. You first do a normal HPLC first or UPLC first, whereby you may use UV or RI detector, normal detectors, not the MS detector. First you see when all the my chromatography is excellent, I am getting the right peaks and I am getting the very sharp peaks, then only I will go to the mass spectrometry. Mass spectrometry I want to do to identify the compounds which are, I don't know the structure of those compounds, some of the compounds. So those I want to identify. Then I will go for the mass. So only when the chromatography is good, I am going for the mass spectrometry. I am not going to the mass spectrometry, just a sample is given to me and I am told do LCMS. I can't do like this. I will have to first do a good LC first, that is HPLC I have to do first. First, standardize the right conditions. After standardizing the right condition, then only I will transfer those conditions to the LCMS. So these are the typical machines which look like. This is the electrospray mass spectrometry ESI-MS. It's a thermopyrogen LCQ. Their ESI ion trap systems. Now what is ion trap and other things we will see when we go to the mass analyzer portions. So very compact instruments today, but as I said, this is a very costly stuff and costing not less than 1.1 to 1.5 crores. So the silent features of this electrospray, it's a solution phase techniques, can analyze both positive and negative. Samples will be dissolved in moderately polar solvent, typically as I said methanol or acetonitrile. Do not use DMF, DMSO, THF, etc. or do not use involatile because DMF, DMSO, all of them are highly non-volatile buffer. They are not volatile, non-volatile solvents. They are not volatile solvents at all. Similarly, do not use the involatile buffers. Typically use the acetates or tetrafluoroacetic acid type of TFA type of compounds or ammonium. Do not use the other phosphate buffer. They are not preferred. So these are some of the things. Now, how does it look like? You can see typically this is like this is the same thing. Electrospray mass spectrometry. Now this is multiply charged species are there. So this is a positive ion electrospray ionization spectrum of a protein, molecular weight of 45,000. A charge state of selected ion molecule is indicated. You can see there is a charge of plus 60, plus 48, plus 36. So from a single molecule, so many ions there. So as I said, typically it looks like a fingerprint from a single molecule. So although I may have typically one single peak coming in my LC, when I do mass, I may get this kind of pattern. And at every peak, if I click, at every peak I click, I will get a mass spectrum. Now the charge is going to be different because this is mass to charge ratio. This is 60 plus charge. That means whatever the mass divided by 60, that will be my m by z will be there. So that is why when m by z goes on differing, my mass spectrometer analyzer doesn't know the direct mass, actual mass. It knows only mass to charge ratio. So although the molecule is same of 45,000, when the charge is different, I will get variety of, and how this variety of charge, because there will be multiple reactions occur. There is a possibility that plus 60 also may occur. There is a maximum formation of plus 48 is there. Very less formation of plus 36 is there. Like that it will be there. And this may be a very typical, I will say, for characteristic of that particular compound. So from this pattern also one can make out that what is this particular protein molecule. Some molecules may not show plus 48. Some molecules may show, like that it is there. So like in this is one example of a cytochrome ESIMS. There is a 12,360 Dalton is the molecular weight. You can see it has shown up to plus 16, plus 15, plus 14, plus 13, like that it is shown. So number of peaks. So this number of peaks have come from the same molecule. It is not different molecules. These have come from the same molecule. So variety of charge is there. So m by z, I will say 12. This is only an example which is shown. So there is a point. When I click, I will see the mass spectrum of each. Advantages of electrospray are many, as we discussed. Directly occurs on solution and allows the ionic and thermally labile compounds to be studied. Mobile phase flow rates are typically very small. I have to use nanoliters I can use, whereas I cannot use the this nanoliter flow rates for APCI. APCI needs some good amount of flow rates. So majority of they will be multiply charged species, as we saw in this protein molecule. There, in case of other techniques, there will be multiply charged species will be less. Here I will get a multiply charged species. So for all protein molecules, I prefer this because from that fingerprint itself, I will get the idea about what kind of molecules are there. A high molecular weight materials and electrospray spectrum involve number of independent molecular determination from a single spectrum, and it increases the accuracy. Basically, precision and accuracy it improves. It is not applicable to some of the non-polar species. Then it is, I have to use compulsorily the UPLC I have to use. The low polarities are, again, it is not applicable. As I said, non-polar and low polarity. The mass spectrum produced from analyte depends on many factors and therefore differ considerably in appearance. That is why in case of a LCMS, as I discussed last time when we discussed about EI and CI, I told you that whatever the mass spectrum produced, for example in Decane, we saw the first example produced here in Birla College or produced in Germany, the mass spectrum is going to be ditto, because in case of EI, electron impact, the parameters are absolutely fixed. Like 70 electron volts will be there, and again typically EI is coupled with a quadrupole or ion trap mass spectrometer, ion trap mass analyzer. So there are libraries are there. I told you library, like there is the Wiley library is there, there is the NIST library is there. Library means compilation of the spectra. So now this compilation of spectra of all organic molecules, there will be 5 lakh molecules, 10 lakh molecules will be there, and those spectra are highly reproducible here anywhere in the world. When I use EI, the Decane has to show me the same spectra, whereas that is not the case in case of electrospray. Depending upon the manufacturer who basically uses or what kind of principles, see, there will be similarity but may not be ditto. Okay, so electrospray, the ionization, whatever the patterns I get or the mass spectrum I get will differ a lot depending on other factors, and spectra obtained in different experimental conditions may therefore differ considerably. See, that is why for LCMS, typically when it comes to APCI or electrospray, there are no libraries. I can't have a library because when I use library, let us suppose Birla College has a LCMS and you go on analyzing some specific compounds, it is possible that whatever the conditions you are keeping, under similar conditions also, there will be some difference in the mass spectrum when it is run at some other laboratory, because it's highly sensitive technique. So because of these different experimental factors, there will be difference in the appearance. So that is why how do you take care? Then you generate your own libraries. That is the same machine. I go on running my samples, and when I go on running my samples, I will have the same reproducibility day by day. So when I am analyzing my compounds, then I will first remember that yes, this compound is showing me this mass spectrum, and when it shows me the same, I will keep that in the library and I will try to compare it myself. If I don't do that, then there are no standard spectrum available to me, because as I said, there are no libraries available. So I have to do a lot of experimentation. But through a standard, some of the theoretical interpretation techniques, I will be able to predict that yes, this particular molecule will show me typically. Some literature will be available, but exact ditto spectrum may not be available in the literature because the experimental factors differ a little bit. Whereas in case of EI, exact ditto spectrum will be available in the literature. Like if you go to the NIST, if you go to the just Google and type NIST spectrum library or nist.gov, that is a site, you will find there will be mass list, mass spectrum libraries are there, in which so many, not all the lab, because that's a free library. So all the libraries, the one which are purchased, they will have a lot of combination spectra. Some of the free libraries will have less number of spectra. So you will find there will be a typical compounds will have typical spectra will be there. Whereas this kind of thing is not possible for ESI or APCI, basically all LCMS techniques, ionization sources, because there is a considerable difference in the spectra based on the difference in the experimental conditions. Then suppression effects, as we saw, which is basically typically because of the various things, we saw there is a dip comes. So it has got a potential implication on co-eluting analytes. So like it's a soft technique, so you will always have the you will have the molecular ions, but you may not have any the fragments. So it is capable of producing structural information, but only I have to go for MSMS. Now, what is this MSMS? We will go when we go further. We will know what is MSMS. So, any questions on what we discussed in ESI? Any question? So, with this, we have covered the soft techniques, which are typically the LCMS techniques. That is thermospray we have covered, APCI we have covered, and ESI we have covered. Any questions on this? Questions? No questions? You are all available or disconnected?
No, sir, no question.
Available. So why no response? Is it all going bumper or what? Or it's clear? I presume it's clear, that is why there are no questions. Can I presume that? Any answers? Yes, no, minimum. Yes or no? Clear or no? Array? Why no answers? Anybody? There are 17 people, 16 people actually. Nobody is answering, not a single. What is the problem? You could hear what I was saying or no? That William, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you heard properly. There was no problem of audio. I was very clear. Sound, everything was okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So any questions on what we have learned in this spray techniques? As I said, thermospray, APCI, electrospray. Anything? Any question?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. So now what we'll do? Shall we continue or we'll take break? Now we have to go for a desorption technique actually. With this, our ionization sources for LCMS are over. We have already seen the ionization sources for GCMS, typically those compounds which are evaporable in nature. So like we saw EI, CI, then we have seen thermospray, we have seen APCI, we have seen electrospray. Now what we have to do is that what should we do for those materials which cannot be neither analyzed by GC nor HPLC? Are there compounds like this? Any compound like this which cannot be analyzed by GC or LC? Now I want answers because this is very simple. Are there any compounds which cannot be analyzed by GC and LC both? Are there compounds? I told you last time GC I need to evaporate, LC I need to dissolve. So there are still some compounds which we may not be able to analyze either by GC or HPLC. So those compounds are typically like there are some big polymer molecules. Like if let us suppose I use engineering plastics. Now if I use engineering plastics, where these plastics are used typically, they are used in many different big machines. For example, in the aeroplane, I am using many plastics, variety of plastics, variety of big molecular weights. Now, as these materials are more and more, I will say inert, or I will say they are very strong. They are not getting attacked by any solvents. Then there is a possibility that once they are not getting attacked by any solvent or anything, they may not be dissolving in solvent also. Right? Possible or no? There are molecules, there are big polymers which are neither soluble in any water or no other solvent. So they cannot be studied otherwise, neither by GC nor by HPLC. So for all those molecules which are not possible to dissolve them or they are not possible to evaporate, there is another third type of techniques which are typically called as desorption technique. So what we will do is then we will just go through the techniques and then we are going to stop because we will not start the techniques today. So typically the desorption techniques, I will just keep little this thing, I mean just tell you the names of the technique. So we have to study typically the two techniques we are going to study. That is, one we will be studying is a fast atom bombardment we will be studying, which is called FAB. And the second technique which we are going to study, now again there are fab, there are other modifications are there. There is a continuous flow fab also, like HPLC also can be covered with a fab, but fab can be used for only standalone also, whereby I may not be able to do GC or HPLC. I can just take a sample directly and do the fab, that is fast atom bombardment. And then there is another technique which is called MALDI, which is matrix assisted laser desorption ionization. So MALDI, MALDI. So that is another technique which is typically used for the molecules which cannot be analyzed by either by GC or by HPLC. So shall we go to the fab or we should stop?
So fab.
Huh?
So take fab.
Okay, we'll take fab. So like we'll take fab. So we'll take fab and then we'll stop. Okay. So Fab is a typical technique. From the name itself you can see. It's a soft ionization technique giving minimal fragmentation. See, many of the soft ionization techniques as we saw in APCI or even electrospray or thermospray, they are all very soft techniques. They will give either M+1 or MH plus or M plus only. That kind of thing it will give. So, but they may give some association type of complexes also. So majority of these are softer techniques, whereas in case of EI is a hard technique which will give me molecular ions, no doubt, plus it will give me a lot of fragments. Okay, so here I am going to study it is used typically for large compounds with low volatility. So as I said, neither they can be analyzed by GC or then neither can be analyzed by HPLC also. Sometimes you may have some biomolecules which is isolated in very small proportion. Okay. Now this you can't do HPLC of that. So then you can do directly the sample and do the Fab. It is very good for polar and thermally labile compounds. Sample is dissolved in appropriate matrix. Now you can see it is fast atom bombardment. So matrix is a material which is put along with the sample. Okay. So now this has a role. That is why matrix is put. So the glycerol, thioglycerol, 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol, crown ethers are typically the matrix. There may be more matrix also which might have come now, but these were the which were studied earlier, and people have been using this earlier. And so matrix keeps the analyte in the liquid state and reduces the damage to the analyte by high energy bombarding the molecules. Now let us see how it works. It has got a, basically it works like this. There is a immobilized matrix is okay. As I said, what is matrix? Matrix is a glycerol, thioglycerol, 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol, crown ethers. This is immobilized, means it's not a flowing. See, like if I go to HPLC or GC, I got a mobility. There is a continuous flow is there. Here there is no mobility. Immobilized matrix. So I am going to take a matrix and I am going to have a sample into that. Okay, I will put my sample into that. Then this matrix is bombarded with a fast beam of argon or xenon atoms. Okay, I am going to take this matrix. In matrix, I will put my sample of interest, and then subsequently I am going to bombard it with fast beam of argon or xenon atoms and 8 to 10 kilo electron volts. So that's the very high energy I am putting. Or cesium plus ions. Then because of this, the charged sample ions are ejected. You can see here I have got a xenon or cesium. There is a solvent molecule here. There is A minus represent the negatively charged ions and C minus the cation of the positively charged. And all other things are the matrix. So here my compound of interest is there. As this compound of interest is bombarded, okay, there is a formation of represents an anion or negatively charged A minus and C plus cation. So that formation is there, A minus or C plus is there. So this formation is there. The black one what you are seeing is A minus and C plus is what is formation of the negatively plus charge. So this is happening because of the bombardment of the xenon or cesium. This been getting bombarded on my compound of interest which is there in my matrix. Now what is matrix? Matrix is basically glycerol, thioglycerol, 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol or crown ethers, any one of them, not all together. What is the role of the matrix? Role of the matrix is to keep the analyte in the liquid state. See, like my compound, as I said, it is neither evaporable nor it is soluble. So it's a solid compound which I can probably put in powder or something. So I am mixing my compound into my matrix and then I am putting it on a plate, whereby there I am bombarding my matrix having my compound of interest with argon or xenon having the energy of 8 to 10 kilo electron volts or cesium ions. Again there are choices, argon, xenon or cesium ion. Then when I do this, then what happens? This interacts with my compound, this argon or xenon, and then there is a formation of charge because it removes the electron. So if there is a formation of electron, then there is a positively charged formation, there is a fragmentation, there is a formation of C plus and A minus will be there. So like that it will bombard. Instead of an electron, here it is xenon or cesium. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, are you sharing the screen because the PPT is not visible?
I am sharing, but how come you are not? It is already shared.
I cannot see at least. I don't know about others.
Can
I
you see?
cannot since
No,
we
sir, it is
started.
not visible. Even I
Is it
cannot
seen
see.
now?
No,
Is it
sir.
visible?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir, it is not visible.
I am surprised really. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So whatever I was telling, it was not visible at all. But why you are not saying? Anyway, I will just once again go to that. I already told you. See, what we are studying is the FAB, that is fast atom bombardment. Okay, the fast atom bombardment is a desorption technique, which is a soft ionization technique, typically used for all those molecules which are neither soluble nor volatile. So they cannot be analyzed by GC or HPLC, or I may have some certain limitation because the molecule may not be available in a large quantity or the sample may not be a large quantity, so that it's very small stuff available and I want to anyway study. So there again I can use FAB. So the sample is typically dissolved in a matrix which is glycerol, thioglycerol or 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol or crown ethers. Now why this? These have been studied by scientists and they saw these were working. If let us suppose, can there be more matrix? Yes, there can be more matrix. What is the role of the matrix? Matrix has a role. Now how does it work? As I told you, matrix is taken, that is, let us suppose I take a case of, let us suppose 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol is taken. I take 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol, I take sample of interest, I mix it, I put it on the plate and I bombard it using xenon or cesium or argon, as I explained. Argon, xenon, cesium, any of them. So 8 to 10 kiloelectron volts is the energy of these atoms I am bombarding. So because of my bombardment, there is a formation of ions. Now ions which I am showing you typically, the black one is showing as a negatively charged species and the one which is having these lines is C+, it is positively charged species. So all other things are solvents. Solvents are the matrix molecules are there. So what is happening in this case? The formation of the positive and negatively charged is there because these molecules which are of compound of interest is dissolved or is mixed with my matrix. So what is the role of matrix? Matrix basically keeps the analyte in the liquid state because as I said this material is not dissolving, so it is keeping the, I want that something has to be kept in the liquid state so that I will be able to do a fine layering or maybe a uniform distribution on the plate. Then if I directly bombard the molecules without matrix, there is a possibility of there will be damage, my material may get decomposed. So that is why matrix is like a mediator. It helps in keeping the analyte molecules in the liquid state and reduces the damage to the analytes. So another purpose of the analyte is that, matrix is that as these ions are formed, I will come to the next figure which I will show you. Here there is an analyte matrix is there, there is a probe tip is here. Now my atom beam, this is argon or xenon is coming here. It is bombarding my matrix and my compound of interest. What is this plate or analyte? It has got an analyte plus matrix. What is the matrix? Matrix coming many as I explained you, the 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol or glycerol or crown ethers, anything. What is the role of the matrix? Matrix keeps the analyte molecule in the liquid phase, okay, and avoid the direct contact of my argon or xenon with my, so it avoids the damage, excessive damage to my compound of interest, okay. As well as now, as these ions are formed from my compound of interest after the bombarding of argon or xenon or cesium, the ions are formed. These ions will be extracted, either positive and negative ions. they will be extracted using the extraction plate. Now this is the mass analyzer portion. Okay. Now this mass analyzer portion, this has got a black plate which is shown here. It has got a negative charge, so it will extract the positive ions. Then subsequently this will be positive, then again negative, like there will be collimating or the focusing lenses will be there, the electrostatic lenses. So here, as soon as the ions are formed from my compound of interest, they will be extracted to the mass analyzer portion, okay, through the extraction plate, and then followed by collimating lenses to the mass analyzer portion. Now, the another role of main matrix will be that since matrix is a liquid in nature, as these positive ions are getting lost, the matrix helps my other analyte molecules to come to the surface. Because matrix is a liquid, it is basically your sample is there in the liquid state because with the help of matrix. So as these ions are lost to the mass analyzer, more and more ions which are non-ionized, they come to the surface. And then there is a further interaction of my argon xenon. Like that, there is a steady formation of ions is there. Is this clear? So because of this, the steady formation of ions and signal will be there. So what is the role of matrix? The matrix, the role is it keeps my analyte into the liquid state. That is the first role. The second role is it avoids the excessive damage of my molecule of interest by argon or xenon. And third major role is it makes the surface continuously renewed. Like as soon as there is the extraction of the ions is there, more and more non-ionized species from my compound of interest, they again come to the surface to interact with my compound of interest and goes on happening like that. So this is a typical technique, so like it's called a desorption technique, because unlike the other techniques which are typically whether there is a fast evaporation or there is a gas chromatography or liquid chromatography like that happening, here it's a standalone technique. There is no liquid chromatography required. These techniques are typically used, as I said, for those compounds whereby I cannot do chromatography, or those compounds which are available in a very small proportions. Like for example, if there is any forensic analysis I want to carry out and a very small portion is there. Let us suppose I have got some paint sample I want to analyze, which whether it contains something. Now some scratches which have been are there and some paint has been removed because of that, because something, and I want to do forensic analysis. So there won't be any much sample available for me for doing the dissolution and then subsequently analysis. So there I can use the FAB, that is fast atom bombardment. So FAB is a very excellent technique used for the molecular weight of sensitive non-volatile. The method is prone to suppression effects by small impurities. Molecular weight range of 100 to 4000 can be easily measured. You can do little higher molecular weights also. Exact measurement is done by peak matching. The accuracy will be same as EI and CI. As I explained you already, theory I explained you already. Now just I will tell you one thing. I told you that argon and xenon, when in fact particle wave is a neutral gas, I told you 4 to 10 electron. When typically it is cesium is used, it is called LCIMS, that is liquid secondary ion mass spectrometry. So basically liquid secondary ion mass spectrometry LCIMS is typically term used when instead of argon or xenon I am using cesium. This is somebody invented, that is the typical name he gave, and it has got a 2 to 30 kilo electron volt, that is the energy which is typically used. The typically glycerol, nitrobenzyl, and these are the used for the as a matrix. So is this clear? What I am doing is that I will just once again go to my figure. This is applicable. This is first of all desorption technique. It is applicable for all those compounds which cannot be analyzed by GC or HPLC. That is the first thing. Or those compounds which I have got a very small quantity of metal which cannot be chromatographed. So I am taking those materials, I am taking those samples in the matrix. Which matrix? I have to do that, I have to do trials, which matrix is giving me the best results, that I have to do. So variety of matrix have been utilized. There is a 3-nitrobenzyl alcohol is used, there is a glycerol is used, there is a crown ether is used, variety of matrix. What is the role of the matrix? Matrix, I am putting my solution sample into that. So matrix keeps my sample into liquid state, that is the first role. Second role is that The principle is argon or xenon, very high energy, 4 to 10 kilo electron volts or 4 to 30 cesium ions are there. These are all bombarding my compound of interest. Ions are formed. These ions are going extracting to the extraction plate, finally focused using my collimating lenses, and then after collimation of the beam, it goes to the mass analyzer portion. So the first rule, as I said, is sample is kept in the liquid state. Second rule is excessive damage to my compound of interest is avoided with the help of matrix, because matrix was like a mediator. Third role, matrix, which is a very important role, is that matrix basically makes the fresh surface available all the time, because all the positive ions which are extracted, again there are other analyte molecules which come to surface, and that is again done by the matrix. Matrix allows the fresher molecules to come to the surface, and again they will be interacted with my argon or xenon to form the ions. This is how it will go on happening, and I get a steady signal. So this is all about fab theory. Any question on this?
No, sir.
Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So there is some modification of a fab also is used. A fab is utilized for LCMS, also is being used. Unlike, as I said, when it is not for it is mainly desorption technique, but some people modified fab for LCMS, whereby it is called a continuous flow fab. Matrix material is, instead of putting the matrix into my separately, it is added to the HPLC eluent, either pre-column or post-column, and this mixture continuously flows to the tip of the capillary. So here like this, there is a probe is there. So there is a this atom gun is there, argon or xenon, and this comes, it bombards, and then there is a formation of ions, and this goes to the mass spectrometer. Now this is called typically a continuous flow fab, which is a modification somebody has done for suiting to the LCMS. But generally, if you see today, LCMS, when it is used, continuous flow fab is less used. You use mainly the electrospray. If it is possible to do chromatography, you generally do the electrospray. Fab has got a lot of advantages over the conventional, and fab and liquid SIMS. As I said, liquid SIMS, I call it when it is a cesium. Sample is dissolved in non-volatile buffer, bombarded with a beam of neutrals or ions. Then it ejects the molecules from solution. I get the ions. These ions are extracted. There will be a lot of disadvantages also, like some of the matrix has got role. I said it does, like it keeps the sample in the liquid state. It makes the surface completely renewed continuously. It avoids the damage to the sample molecules. But at the same time, matrix also can get ionized. If matrix gets ionized, which is available in a large proportion, you may have the lot of noise or maybe some background spectra because of the matrix itself. So that's a major disadvantage of a FAB. So continuous flow fab, as we saw, is basically this is the modification suiting to the LCMS. So fab has the advantages, there are disadvantages, and major disadvantages of FAB is that it gives a lot of background spectra. So we have covered today electrospray and fab. Now we'll stop today. If any questions are there, I will glad to answer. Otherwise, we'll go to the next time to the Maldi. Any questions?
No, sir.
So we stop here, and next time we'll go to the
Hello,
Maldi.
sir.
Yeah. Just tell me.
Sir, other than your presentation, what all references can be used to study this technique?
Yeah, you can use. There is a standard books on LCMS. Your library also has got. There is a book called Nissen, NIESSEN.
NIESSEN. Nissen.
Nissen book as a black colored book was there. I don't know whether the color cover has changed or not. It is on LC. Any other LCMS book you take, but you don't.
Okay.
You go as per your syllabus only, because you will find in the many LCMS books there will be so many other ionization sources will be given.
Yes, sir, because I saw some books. It is having many of it.
Yeah, you
So
will
I
have
just got
many.
confused.
Yeah, because see, what is being typically asked in your question paper or your syllabus, that is what we have to study. Because LCMS is a topic which is on itself, like it is a continuously research and develop. So you will find there will be variety of names, variety of acronyms will be there, and all those it is not possible to study all of them. There will
Yes,
be
sir.
volumes of books will be there, volumes of books. Okay,
Yeah,
and
sir. Yeah, sir.
you can't study that. So what is that you have to study? I will say when it comes to the mass spectrometry, the first you must study that is the first ionization sources. See, mass spectrometry is typically divided into two sections. One is that ionization sources, one is the mass analysis. These are the two main topics. And third is the interfacing or other application parts. How do you do tandem or how do you do MSMS? All those things also are there. And how do you couple GC with MS? How do you couple LC with MS? All those things are there. But the major portion, I will say 60% of the mass spectrometry is nothing but ionization sources and mass analyzers. In the ionization sources, there is a big list of ionization sources. But what is being generally, which will be asked in your question papers also, is the first two hard ionization, or I will say for typically used for GCM, that is EI, CI, is typically like EI is like a bread and butter when it comes to the mass spectrometry, EI, CI, and when it comes to the LCMS, it is always thermospray, PCI, ESI. That is the typically spray techniques. The first two are the GCMS techniques, the three are the spray techniques, and two desorption techniques. So typically we study two techniques first, that is for GCMS, then three techniques for spray and two desorption. So that is 3 plus 2 plus 2. 7 ionization sources we generally study. Okay. Now if
So,
you see in
sir,
yeah,
uh, sorry, sir, to interrupt in between, but
yeah.
in that also, what we have to mention specifically, because as a main point, if I'm writing the answer, I should like be specific at my point. So, what all points I should mention in it?
Yeah, you have to always first draw the diagram.
Yes, sir.
Okay, there is a pictorial diagram you must give, and first there are 3 points you must always have, 3 or 4 points. If let us suppose there is a question is asked, please explain electrospray ionization technique. Okay, I am just giving an example. So what I will do, if I am let us suppose I am a student, first of all I will write the basic principle of ESI. So I said, what are the steps? First of all, electrospray is a spray technique which is typically used in LCMS, right? And
Yes,
that is
sir.
the first basic I will write. The second I will write, it is basically there are how many steps are there in ESI? Like what we saw, there are 3 steps in ESI, right? Then I will draw a diagram, and then when 3 steps are there, like I showed you just now, these are the 3 steps. That is the first, there is a formation of the droplets will be there.
Formation of
Droplets
droplets.
will be
Yes, sir.
there. The formation of the droplets, ionized droplets, then there is a desolvation is there, and then there is a fission and followed by gas phase. So like that if I study, and so I write down the first the basic fundamental, then I will draw a diagram, then I will write down subsequently how does it work. Like 3 things work, that is okay. So the first thing, how the potential difference has been put, and then how this polarization takes place of the droplet, and how the formation of the small droplets which are charged droplets happens. Subsequently how there is a subsequently desolvation occurs, desolvation followed by repelling forces, they work out, then there is a formation of the Taylor cone is there, or then subsequently then there is a fission at the end and formation of the fine ions will be there, or there will be formation of the positively charged ions which are free from solvent. So first I write down the basics about this, then I will draw a diagram, then I draw down the theory, and then write down the basically the advantages and disadvantages of that. And if any applications are many for biomolecules and other things, this is the way I will write down. It may be one and a half
Okay,
page.
sure.
Okay, depending upon how much marks are there. If let us suppose it is for 2 marks, that is something different. If it is for 5 marks, you have to finally see how many marks are there, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
If it is a
for
15
theory,
marks
it's
question,
mostly
then there you have to
7 to
write in
8.
detail. In detail.
केक
So
की आवाज
I
अटक
will,
जाता है
at
वापस
the
से
end of my sessions, I will give you more information about the books also. But as I know I have seen your libraries. You have got a Nissan book is there. More books also I can share with you, which are electronic copies also. Or I can tell you the sources where it is available. Because I am not supposed to share electronic copies. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
But I can tell you the sources where it is available.
Okay.
Because it's a free world. You have to go to Google and you will find many. I can tell you the links.
Okay, sir. Okay. Sure, sir.
But as I said, you need to, those particularly who are non-chemistry people, you must study this in detail. And there is no option in this. If you have to be doing bioanalytical analysis properly afterwards, after your MSc or PhD, you must know mass spectrometry very well. Just like if in a kitchen, if I go and see, I don't know chapati, sabji and rice, then somebody will say, you don't know how to do cooking, right? Because these are the essential aspects of the kitchen today, if you see Indian kitchen. Similarly, when it comes to bioanalytical lab, mass spectrometry is a day to day, every day. And you must know that. You must know the theory, you must know the interpretation also. So always revise. That is very, very essential part. I can take more and more also in a one session go, but I feel it is always overloaded. Then more and more overdose will be there. That has no point. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Then
sir.
we
Thank you,
stop
sir.
here. We stop here, and all the best to you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye.